Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. The weather's heating up a little bit, things are getting a bit warmer. So I thought I'd make a couple of videos of reviews of fragrances that utilise lime as a kind of main note. Because I think that lime is sort of a underrated note in fragrance, like in perfumery. Of course there are lime perfumes and that, but normally you see like with citruses, people tend to go for like bergamots, and lemon, and these days a bit more like grapefruit and things like that, but you never sort of see as much lime. And I feel like it's a really, like, I've always found lime like a really attractive smell. I think it's a really nice smell. I think it has like a really nice amount of complexity, and I think it just is quite interesting. And you know, in perfume, it's nice to have something that is a little bit different, and I think lime can bring that to the table. The two fragrances I want to talk about are a cheaper fragrance and a slightly more expensive fragrance. So, you know, something for everyone, hopefully. And they are Atelier Parfumeur Batucada and Eau De Gaga. I'm going to preface this one because we'll start with Eau De Gaga, and I'm going to preface it by saying I couldn't give two shits about Lady Gaga, and I couldn't give two shits about celebrity culture either. Like, celebrity perfumes for me, I really couldn't give two shits about the celebrity behind them. It's about what it smells like. And I looked this up, and obviously because I wanted to see if anyone else had reviewed it, or, you know, if it was worth doing a review for it. And there were quite a lot of reviews on YouTube for this, but they're all, or nearly like 99% of them, are focusing on the fact that it's Lady Gaga rather than actually what it smells like. They sort of review it in the sphere of the idea that, oh, this isn't Lady Gaga, this doesn't feel like something Lady Gaga would wear, or some other such bullshit. It doesn't matter. She doesn't have anything to do with this apart from her name. Like, let's face it, this is that to review a fragrance like that is, let's talk about what it actually smells like. So Eau De Gaga, all of the marketing behind it is tosh. We're not even going to go into the perfumer because it doesn't matter. It's listed as Lady Gaga, clearly not. It's listed as like some made up laboratory with some edgy name. It's all tosh. The notes in it are lime on the top. In the middle we've got white violet, and in the base it's woody notes and leather. Yeah, leather. But actually, it's missed that note listing actually misses out the main note in this, which is tea. And this is a cracking tea fragrance. Now, this fragrance cost me, so obviously bear in mind whilst I'm reviewing this, that this is all relative to the price, right? But this fragrance cost me £7 with free next day delivery. There's not a lot in this world that you can buy for £7. I mean, I can think of almost nothing. A pint? So let's give it a spray and speak about what it smells like. The bottle is actually decent. I quite like this kind of like monolithic black design. It's quite nice. It is, once you get kind of in close, like you can kind of see that it's a bit cheap. I don't know if I hold it near the camera. It's a fingerprint magnet, obviously, but I mean, it's kind of cheap. Like the cap is kind of cheap and stuff, but you know, I quite like this kind of monolithic design. But yeah, so what does it actually smell like? Basically, when you spray this, it's a really big kind of blast of really kind of like a neon lime, but it's not in any way offensive, and it doesn't, importantly, for £7, smell like a floor cleaner. It smells not altogether natural because it's quite a big kind of solid in your face lime, so I don't think it's really trying to smell natural to a degree. It's a bit like that Mancera that I talked about, Cedra Bois, where, you know, the citrus in it is real punchy and sort of neon like. It's not sort of toned down and natural like, so you get this big heady lime, and directly underneath that, that's kind of more or less all you get straight away. And it does take a while, but now it's about a minute in, say 30 seconds to a minute, and we let that kind of big initial kind of boof of lime kind of settle a little bit, you get this kind of creamy greenery that comes out underneath it, and I guess that's the white violet. Straight off the bat, because that white violet is quite creamy, and it's kind of mixing with the tea below the lime, you get a kind of milky tea. So you got this basically like a big kind of punchy lime, and then below that a milky tea. Now, as that kind of progresses, the creaminess drops off a little touch from the white violet, and instead it just kind of brings a little subtle sweetness. But the green sort of sticks around, and so the tea sort of transforms from this milky tea at the start into more of a green tea, and then you end up with a green tea and lime basically, and the lime stays forever. It's the lasting power is really impressive. It's like I say, like I can't stress enough, £7 for a perfume delivered, and the lime sticks around like nuclear. It all day long. That is quite impressive. I said that the white violet does come down. Probably it's the quickest note to kind of lose itself. I would say it's more of a... So normally you expect the top notes to kind of shoot off first, and then the heart notes to kind of stick around, and then some of those heart notes will kind of move into the dry down, right? But in this fragrance, the lime sticks around forever. The white violet is sort of an in-between note between like the top and the heart, and it sticks around for a while, but it soon drops off and kind of falls by the wayside. But the tea does stick around. Now, the base notes in this, leather and wood, I'm gonna say I don't really get either of those. I get a touch of woods to it, but that's way later. But that, all that does for me, I don't really feel like it's woody as such. All that does is kind of add to that tea note and make it feel a little more green, because when you have that kind of green tea or jasmine tea, because with that white violet, this does feel a little bit like a kind of green jasmine tea. So with that, the woody note, all you get is it kind of like a stalky tea, which is what green tea, it gives that kind of little bit hint of bitterness. That, I mean, green tea is quite bitter anyway, but it just kind of adds to that and makes it feel a bit more like a kind of stalky green tea. But it's really good, and as a tea note, as far as tea notes go, it's nice, and it's up there with, I don't think this is far different from Eau De Gaga by Bulgari, which is a really kind of, I don't know if I would say like super respected, but it's got quite a cult following, and it's you generally tend to hear good things about it, and I think that's probably because it's Jean-Claude Eleanor more than anything. It's quite an early, I think it's early to mid 90s, 94, something like that. Jean-Claude Eleanor, so people tend to kind of talk about it like it's great, and it can be quite tricky to find and things like that. And of course it's Bulgari, therefore it's kind of better than Eau De Gaga, but I think this is up there with that, and in fact I prefer it to Eau De Gaga, because it's almost more simple. It is just lime and tea, and that's really nice, and it really works. If there is leather in this, you would have to say it's very subtle, like almost like a soft suede, but I mean, at a push, for me this is all about that lime at the start, and the way that kind of blends with the white violet, which makes it sort of feel a little bit like a creamy tea, and then say after about an hour or so that's going to slip away, and we're going to get this more kind of jasmine green tea kind of feel, and it's going to be a bit stalky, and above all of that you've got this lime that stays forever. Now the lime, it does also lose that nuclear kind of side of it, and at the start, like I say, it's a big nuclear neon lime, but already it's calming down, and by the dry down, like late into the heart and into the dry down, it drops all of that, and it becomes more of a kind of subtle lime, a bit more of a kind of naturalistic lime, and it's not as nuclear as it starts. I don't know if it needs to be nuclear to have that longevity, but it starts nuclear, but it calms down and becomes just a nice lime on top of this tea. And for £7, this is a cracker. Like, for summer, this is an absolute banger. And if you like tea fragrances, this is really worth checking out. I actually think it's like I say, it's a really good tea fragrance. As far as, you know, being Lady Gaga and all that, I don't know. I don't care. But what I do care about is that it's a really nice tea fragrance with a lovely bit of lime, and that's not altogether usual. So I think it's really worth checking out. If you like the Bulgari tea fragrances, like Bulgari Pour Homme Soir, or Eau De Rouge, Eau De Vert, you know, Eau De Blanc, Eau De Noir, any of those, you could enjoy this for sure. Obviously there's tons of other tea fragrances, but just those ones I feel are quite similar, because the Bulgaris especially, they tend to be quite simple fragrances. So like Eau De Rouge is just kind of tea and fig, and Eau De Vert is just kind of like green tea, and obviously you know, you get Bulgari Pour Homme Soir is kind of bergamot and tea. So you know, they're quite transparent, quite simple fragrances where you've got like tea and a kind of highlighting note, and that's what this feels like to me. It feels very much like that. You've got tea and then the kind of lime as a kind of highlight to that. So yeah, if you like any of those fragrances, this is worth checking out. And for like a summer tea, I think this is a banger. And for £7, I really think you can do worse. It's quite simple. Like I say, like obviously you have to bear in mind that, like I say, like I want you to keep in mind that it's £7, and so I'm talking about this totally in that sphere. Like if I'd have spent like £200 on this, probably be pretty disappointed, because not because of the quality or anything like that. I think it smells fine. Like in terms of quality, I'm happy with it. But it's just quite simple and quite linear. But you know, sometimes you want that. You know, if you want something simple and linear, then great cracking tea fragrance. If you want to go something a little bit more complicated, well then, you know, it's not gonna itch your scratch your itch. It's not gonna scratch your itch. But for those summer days where it's hot and you just want something simple and something summery and something so that feels a little bit different, that's not your usual kind of aquatic or citrus, this I feel can do that. I fill that void. I don't think it's like a super like the best summer fragrance of all time or anything like that, but I think it's got a place in a collection for sure. You know, being like a lime tea, and I think it's good. Really, if you're looking at lime fragrances as well, sort of one point to note is that I don't know of any other really kind of cheapies that are lime fragrances. Probably the next cheapest lime fragrance that I can think of is Guerlain L'Homme, or Guerlain Homme. But that's not particularly cheap, you know, it's still designer prices. So, you know, for a cheap lime, yeah, I think it's unisex, anyone can wear it. There's nothing really in here that's gonna upset anyone. It's just limes and tea. When do I think it's for? I think it can be dressed up a little bit, but it has that. For me, summer fragrances always feel super casual, especially when you're talking kind of limes and things like that. But I think with that tea, it lends it a little bit to be dressed up. But I feel like with those kind of citruses and that, it's kind of a bit more casual than that. But you know, whatever. But in terms of versatility like that, I think it's it's a touch more versatile than Versatility, which is like bang on nailed on a summer fragrance. I feel like perhaps this one is a bit more of a kind of spring, summer. You could probably even wear it in other seasons. I probably wouldn't. But it's, you know, really, again, like a nailed on summer fragrance. With that tea, I think you kind of can sort of push it a little bit there and get away with things like kind of autumn and spring, but you probably wouldn't want to wear it in the winter. So that's my review for Eau De Gaga. Next, I'm going to be doing Versatility. I'm probably going to split that up. I think I am going to do that in a second video, so I'll put a link to it in the description, or one of them card things, if I can. One of them card things, I don't know if I can figure out how to do that. Or, like I say, just subscribe to my channel, because we talk about perfumes and that's nice. So yeah, cheers, thanks for watching, nice fun.